I'm Kathy, and this is Sewing Tech Talk. You know, if you're new to embroidery, or even if you've been embroidering for a while, aren't there those some situations when you're embroidering that, well, how do you do this on a flatbed machine? So let's explore some of the different things that you can do for all the guys in your life. Now, not just men, but you know, guys. You want a hat? Let's do a left chest embroidery, and I have a quick and easy project that anybody can use. Like I said, I'm Kathy. This is Sewing Tech Talk. Let's do some guy gear. So if you're new to embroidery, well, there might be some situations you might be kind of, well, not so familiar with. So we're going to touch on this today, and I'm going to create a patch that goes on the hat. Because doing a hat on a flatbed machine, well, it's not the easiest thing, and it's definitely not a beginner project. But making a patch, well, that kind of is. So why are hats kind of challenging on a flatbed machine? Well, they're round, and that's flat. So when you get the hat in there, you can see that, oh my gosh, it's really a challenge to get that hat flat so that you can, well, do a successful embroidery. Because if an embroidery moves that's not supposed to move, it's not going to turn out right. So they do make some specific frames. This is a hoop. Basically, it's called a frame also, for flatbed machines to do hats. But if you're only making a couple, or you're not really that into it, well, you may not want to make the investment in that special hoop. If you're making a few hats, well, a patch might be a good solution. Other uses for patches too. Maybe you haven't done an embroidery on a towel, and, well, that would work really good, maybe on a golf towel, right? And you don't have to learn about doing embroidery on a fluffy surface. What if you're going to want to do something on a nice big jacket, right? Big jackets, well, might be kind of challenging on a flatbed machine, like one of those Carhartt jackets. But a patch would be something that you could make, and so on. So here's a teardrop trailer, which might be a great patch if you belong to the Teardrop Trailer Club, and you can make your own. So let's explore a little bit how patches are made. What a patch basically is, it's kind of an applique is where you take fabric and you sew it on the top of other fabric, right? And a patch kind of is the same thing, but you're just sewing the fabric on the top of some stabilizer, cutting it out, and then sewing it on wherever you want it to be. So you can get it into some places, well, you can't really get on a flatbed. Now, if you're going to do a bunch of hats, well, there's a machine for you. There's a free arm machine, either a multi-needle, they even make a single needle, and they are made for doing, you know, things in the round like hats. So if you're really, really going to be doing a lot of hats, then you might want to look into one of those machines because, well, they're super easy to do on a machine like that. So now let's talk about this patch that I've started. I have started it, and I'll show you how. Let's finish it up here, and then I want to show you how I did it on the machine, because it's a really pretty simple process. So here it is. I'm doing this patch on a vinyl, right? This is a vinyl that looks distressed, kind of like a leather, and I thought it would make a really cool patch. Now remember, when you're doing the embroidery just on the hat, well, that's great, but on a patch, that gives you the opportunity to add something else, to really make that design stand out. So what I've done is I have done it, I've stitched along, and I have stopped right here, which is the single stitching line where I can cut my patch out. Now there's a couple other options. If you have a scan and cut machine where you can take the design from the machine and you can have the scan and cut actually cut this patch out for you. In fact, this machine is automatically connected to a scan and cut. Only certain machines and scan and cuts do it. But I could literally have sent this design off the scan and cut, and it would have cut my patch out for me, which is kind of neat on some, you know, more intricate shapes. If you're doing a bunch of patches, that would be a great investment too. So what I've done is I have stitched around it. Now I am going to take and trim away on this outside edge so that I can do the satin stitch around my design. So I've talked quite a bit. Let me cut this out, and then what I can do is I'll come back, we'll finish it, and let me show you how I created it on this machine. It's really pretty easy. So I trimmed around my applique, and I used little applique scissors to do it. You could see how it's really easy to have the scan and cut go ahead and cut it out. It cuts up to 3 millimeters thick, and this vinyl isn't nowhere near that. And it would give it a little bit nicer cut than I've done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the finishing line around the outside edge, and then we're going to see how I did it. So let's get started. I have that next one is the line around it. Let's do that outside edge. So I finished stitching my patch, and it turned out really cool. I really like it. This is the Army Airborne Paratrooper wings, and it's good to know that if you're new to embroidery, this design is obviously not built into the Brother Stellaire. You can go out on the internet, and there's so many designs that you can get. There's probably something for everything that's been digitized into embroidery. And Brother has an app where I can send it wirelessly to this machine, or I can put it on a USB stick and bring it on in. The process is pretty simple, and I've done other videos that kind of show you how to do that as well. So here it is. Let me show you how I made this patch. It's really easy on this machine. Now, this machine is the Brother Stellaire, and it is it's a pretty fancy machine, meaning that it has something called My Design Center in it. And in My Design Center, you can create your own embroideries. Now, I have in my handout, because I have a handout for this in all of my videos, I have a handout that takes you through step by step of doing that process in My Design Center. This machine is connected to a scan and cut, like I said before. So it's even simpler on the Brother Stellaire to do it. I'm going to show you that method, but don't forget, if you don't have a connected machine with this feature, I have the instructions for you in the handout where you can create your own patch in My Design Center or IQ Designer. Okay, so here's my patch. So let's go back to the very beginning, which is a very good place. And I want you to notice that I have, this is where they're stitching the patch, and this is the part that does the applique. Let's go back to basics. I'm going to put this in the memory of the machine. And let's go back home, and I'll create it all over. So I'm going to go into embroidery, and I have the design on my USB stick. Remember, I could have sent it over. And I brought up a whole bunch of different designs that I thought might be great for doing guys. Remember, this is a Disney machine, so you can get all kinds of Disney, Marvel characters, of course, Disney characters. In this house, we're doing Airborne, so there's my Airborne patch right there. So when I bring that up, I touch it, and there it is. I can see that it's going to be a pretty good size for my patch on my hat because, well, quite frankly, you don't want it to be too big for a hat. So I'm going to hit set. Now I want to make this into a patch. When I go into edit on this machine, a lot of machines of this caliber have this feature where you touch this and it creates an applique patch. And that would be just fine. You don't need a special program like My Design Center to do that. But I want something that's going to be an oval. So what I'm going to do is, instead of just going around the patch, I'm going to add a circle or an oval. I'm going to come up here into the frames. Now, if you don't have My Design Center, this is basically, if I pick, let's say I want an oval, but if I pick this as a zigzag to go around there, that would sort of give me a patch, but it's not quite all the steps that I need. So I'm going to touch just the oval, that's just the straight stitching, set. Oh, and it came out the pretty good size. I'm going to come into edit. Let's move it up just a little tiny bit. And actually, it's a pretty good size just the way it is. Now, because this machine is connected to the Scan and Cut, I not only have this, but I also have applique patch for selected colors, which is a special feature. Now I can select this, that's the oval, and I go next, and I can choose that satin stitch. I can change the size of it if I want. I can make it bigger. I can make the density a little bit less. I have all different controls for doing it. And then when I say OK and preview, then it's created my applique just like that. When I go next, there's all the steps that I need for my applique. Now remember, if you don't have this feature, if your machine is not connected to a Scan and Cut and has this special feature, I have the step-by-step instructions in my handout, because you can go through my Design Center and create all this. It's not a difficult process, but it's not as quick as this. So now, here's my little guy. I can even tell it I don't want some things. You see the little scissors icon there? If I have that, that's the cue to the Scan and Cut to cut this shape out. So when I say OK, I can send this off to the Scan and Cut. If I touch memory, you can see how this machine is connected to the Scan and Cut, and I could just send that shape directly over there. So that's basically how I created that patch. It was pretty simple. Now, one other thing I wanted you to notice, it put the applique parts at the very end. I'm totally okay with that, because if I'm doing a denser design, well, I just kind of don't want the machine to kind of shift the design before I do my patch. You know what I mean, right? So I'm pretty okay with that, and I could stitch it in any order if I wanted to by using the plus and minus keys. So if I did want to put my patch down before I did my embroidery, I can go here and I can go through all the different parts and advance it through, and there I am starting that applique. Now, in the top of the line machine, I can actually change the sewing order. I can't do that in this one, but there's some reasons why the top of the line machine is the top of the line machine. So now, I don't really want to do that patch again. I've already done it. Let's go on to our next project, which is a left chest embroidery. So I have that patch around there. I'm going to go return, and I don't want that patch part, right? So I can select either design or that, and I can literally make it go away. Now I just have my little embroidery. And we're going to put it on the left chest of the shirt. Let me grab that. Now, remember how the hat was a little bit too challenging to embroider? Well, a shirt can be a little challenging as well. There's a lot of fluff around there that you have to control. It's not as challenging as a hat, and it's easy to do. Now, on a left chest embroidery, you want the design to be, well, where you want it to be. So in my handout, this is a pretty handy handout. In my handout, I do have the chart that kind of recommends, basically for all the different size shirts, the measurements where you need to kind of approximately put it. Remember, your shirt may be different, but this is going to get you pretty close. Basically, you're going to measure down from the collar, where the collar meets the shoulder, and the center of the shirt. And those measurements are in the handout. And I give you instructions with a pretty picture as well. So now, let's put this design on the shirt. Now, when you put your shirt in the frame, on the shirt, what you're always going to need on a knit shirt is you're going to need a stabilizer on the back that's a cutaway. And they make this awesome stabilizer. It's called Power Mesh Cutaway by Floriani. And what this is even if you have a white shirt, you don't want the stabilizer to show through. And you need a cutaway because it needs to stabilize the embroidery for the life of the shirt. When the shirt gets twisted and turned, well, you know a knit's going to stretch around. You need it to stay stable to support that embroidery. So I put that cutaway, that power mesh, on the back of the shirt. And you really just need it where it needs to go. I've hooped the entire shirt, but you could also just hoop the cutaway and then do the basting. And the basting, when we come into embroidery, is this icon right here. I touch that, and that'll put a basting stitch around there, and that would hold the shirt down to the stabilizer for me to do this. If you have a challenging shirt, that might be a way to go, but I really don't need that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the shirt in the hoop with my stabilizer. I'm going to support the insertion as I go in, try to get everything going in good. Now, two things I need to do. I need to make sure that the other part of the shirt is not underneath the hoop. Ask me how I know. And I need to have all this bulk out of the way. Now, this polo shirt is pretty easy to do this way. If it was a t-shirt, well, I wouldn't have this bigger opening around the neck. So in that case, what you could do is you could bring the bottom hem of the shirt up, and you'd have a bigger area to deal with. And that's more typically how you're going to do it. Always check under the hoop to make sure that the shirt's not there, because you don't want to embroider the front to the back. Now, I'm pretty much ready to go. If this design is a little bit more dense, I could always slip an extra piece of tearaway stabilizer underneath it to give it a little bit of extra oomph. These wings are a little bit dense. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my thread and get this design put on the left side of my shirt. Oh, one thing I forgot to say. We could go around and we could see how big this design is. And of course we need to place it. I almost forgot. So now let's make sure that I put the design in the center of my crosshairs. And I have a great feature for that. If I touch this, I can tell the machine exactly that we're going to put the center of the design in the center of those crosshairs. So can you see the little red light? What we're going to do is we're going to put that light in the center of the crosshairs. I want the center, and I'm going to move that light. Good thing I remembered to place it in the right spot. Now, I went into the center. Let's make sure I have it straight. All right, it's shining down. To move it up, set. Now what the machine done is automatically rotated it and centered my design for me. Pretty sweet, right? Now I'm going to change my thread and I'm ready to go. So easy, it threads itself. I have embroidery bobbin thread in the bobbin. I have my right color there. I remembered to place my design. That was a close one. And now I'm ready to go. Now, if this design is too small or too big, I have the ability to change that size in the machine as well. So I think I'm ready to go. All I have to do is hit green for go. So we have a patch on a hat. Well, not quite yet. We're going to sew the patch onto the hat. But remember, the patch can go anywhere. The patch can go on a jacket. We've done a shirt. So we got some pretty impressive guy gear going on. I want to show you one quick project that is not as involved as either of those. So let's do a key fob really, really fast. And that's where we get to play a little bit in IQ Designer, and that's what it's called in Baby Lock. And in Brotherland, it's called My Design Center. So here is some webbing, and we can do a pretty cool, impressive key fob. Remember, this could also be a guitar strap or a bag strap. all kinds of different stuff. And I am going to use the optional 5x7 magnetic frame. Doesn't come with this machine, but it's a super useful frame. I could have done the shirt on it as well, which is pretty neat. So really quick, I need a place to put I need to know where to put my webbing, okay? So I'm going to make a placement in My Design Center. So I'm going to go to My Design Center, and I'm going to tell the machine I just want just an outline, because I'm just going to use this as a placement. Okay, now I'm going to bring in a shape, and all I need is a rectangle. Okay, now let's change the size. My webbing is 1 inch, so I'm going to make this 1 inch tall. This is just a placement box. A little bit smaller than 1 inch. There we go. Now my frame is 5x7 and 6.19. That's not going to work. So I need to make it smaller than 5. Or I could have turned it the other way, and actually it would have fit in there as well. I would maybe need to do that for a longer word, right? Okay. Now here's just my placement box. That was so easy. Next, preview. Okay. Now it's sent it off to the land of embroidery. Now here it is. Now I want to put my wording inside. Now I know the size of my wording needs to fit in that box, right? So this is real simple. I'm going to hit add, pick one of my fonts. Let's just pick the basic one right here. Now I'm going to put tractor in here. T, well, I can see that's just too big. Medium, that might be good. Let's see, R, it doesn't have spell track. T-R-A-C, oops, C, T-O-R, T-O-R. Now what have I done? I can see that it's going to fit on my little webbing. I'm going to move it right inside. So I'm going to move it. I know it fits, and I'm going to know exactly where to place it. This is such a simple process to do. Now, I know it's going to fit right in there. Okay, now let's go to embroidery. Oh, it's not in the middle, right? So, no problem. I'm going to take everything and I'm going to move them to the center because I know it's going to fit. Let's pick that box and move it to the center as well. It still works. Okay, now we're good to go. Ooh, that was a close one. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to stitch out that box. It's going to show me exactly where to place my webbing, and I'm just going to use the magnetic frame to hold the webbing in place. Oh, and here's the key fob hardware. You can get this just about anywhere, and it goes on the end when you're done. It's really a fast project. All right, now I know where to place my webbing. So I'm going to take off one side of the magnets, place my webbing exactly where I want it to be on that. And let's just replace the magnet. I think I only need one. Good to go. Now let's do the other side now that that's secure. And just embroider your words. So I finished the hat. what I did is I put the Echo quilting foot that comes with the Stellaire, I put that on the machine. It's for free motion quilting, but it's great for sewing on patches. Now when you sew the patch on the hat, take your time. It's not a very, well, it doesn't take long, but don't rush it. And then after I sewed the patch on the hat, well, I ended up with some pretty impressive guy gear. Here's a hat, a matching shirt. Don't forget, once you have the embroidery design, you can change the size of it, change the shape of it. You don't have to sew all the colors. And what a package this is. Any guy would like any of these, right? I don't care what kind of a guy. So thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with me. So fast and easy, it's almost embarrassing. You don't have to tell him how quick it was. I'm going to send it off to George. He's going to tell you a lot more about the Stellaire, which is a pretty versatile machine. I think you have to admit.
Thanks, Cathy. That was an incredible presentation. And so let's go over the special offer we have on the Brother Stellaire series. So we have the XJ2, which is their combination sewing and embroidery, and the XE2, which is dedicated embroidery. They both share the same embroidery features, which is a large 9.5 by 14 inch embroidery area with over 780 built-in embroidery designs, and of them, over 100 of them are Disney. It also has over 30 fonts and large, beautiful monograms. And with the fonts, you can edit in all kinds of arrangements. You can arc, you can array, you can even cut and paste and kern it in some custom ways. Speaking of customization, you can take a design and do an automatic applique around it. And with the matrix copy, you can copy this very quickly to make patches. And if we had the scan and cut, we can actually send it to the scan and cut out those patches, and then embroider them beautifully. An additional advanced technology is a new 2-point laser positioning. I can take something like a name and position it perfectly on a line. I can use it to do multiple hoopings and match them perfectly. I can even use it for edge-to-edge quilting. Now, part of what the Stellaire series offers is a special relationship with the scan and cut. They actually can marry together, so I can send an applique design right from my machine and it will cut it out perfectly for beautiful applique. But better yet, I can send a design from my scan and cut and turn it into embroidery. It also unlocks a new feature where I can choose one of the colors of my design, whether if it's a built-in design, I can choose that and turn it into applique. But let's take that heart that I sent over. I turn it into embroidery. I select the color, and now it's applique. Now let's bring over the third part of the piece. I want to create my own fabric, and I can do that with Print Moda. I took an image of a rose and I arranged it just in a beautiful kaleidoscope of color, and I printed that fabric and placed it on in the scan and cut. I took my design I created on the Stellaire from the scan and cut, sent it over to the scan and cut it out, and I have one complete embroidery design created with that trifecta of creativity. Now the XJ2 also is a sewing machine, and it has a large 11.25 inch opening, beautiful lighting. It has 760 built-in stitches, from quilting stitches to applique to utility. It even has automatic stippling and some beautiful decorative stitches that are very, very wide. It also has an automatic 1/4 inch feature which moves the needle over a 1/4 inch from the foot, and you can use the laser guidance it has on there so you can just do some beautiful piecing. It also has amazing fabric control with an automatic fabric sensor, and this gives you the ability to sense multiple layers like in denim, or if I want to sew on some sheer fabric like this tricot, I can do that beautifully, or even working with elastics. It handles the fabric beautifully. If it's even more extreme, we can add the digital dual feed. This is a belt-driven feed system that gives perfect contact on the fabric. And so you see here with this marine vinyl, there's no slippage. I also can use it with such things as minky, which is hard to sew with, and of course, quilting. For more information on this incredible product, click on the link to see our current special offer. You can email us at customerservice@moores-sew.com or call us at 1-800-865-9664.